We are going on week 3 of Unrest in Minnesota, but this weekend's fatal shooting of Alex Pretti seems to have caused a shift in the way the country is viewing immigration enforcement. It might be more accurate to say feeling instead, because the left has successfully weaponized the empathy of our nation in attempts to pressure the Trump admin into backing off deportations, and it really isn't doing anything to turn down the temperature like they're calling for. Which brings me to today's point. Conservative commentator Alex Clark recently polled her Facebook group on whether or not they think the shooting of Alex Pretti was justified. Most respondents actually said it wasn't, and this wasn't a crowd of random liberal women. It was a mostly female conservative audience of her Maha and Culture podcast. Now, at the time of making this, the situation is still very much developing, but these initial reactions are fascinating to me because at the national level, I think it's pretty safe to say that the conservative consensus is that the situation was awful but lawful.
Bottom line, everybody in this room, we view that as a very unfortunate incident, okay? Right. Everyone, unless you're a stupid person, very, very unfortunate incident. I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff. And despite that, I say that's a very unfortunate incident.
So what's the disconnect? Allie Beth Stuckey, another conservative figurehead, popularized the term toxic empathy, and I think it describes this very predicament pretty well.
So what is toxic empathy? A tool of emotional manipulation that is, I would say, primarily used by the left to manipulate, I would say in particular women, I guess you could say everyone, into believing that the progressive perspective on a particular issue is the compassionate and loving one.
In her book, she explained that toxic empathy is when you feel so deeply for a person that you validate lies, affirm sin, and support destructive policies. Don't believe this is what's happening? Here's the Minnesota Timberwolves holding a moment of silence for Alex Pretti at a game this weekend.
We extend our love, support, and heartfelt sympathies to Alex's family, friends, and our community during this difficult time. Please join us in honoring the life and memory of Alex Pretti with a moment of silence.
Do you think they bothered to highlight the fact that Pretti had absolutely no business approaching officers in the first place? They also did this for Renee Good, the woman fatally shot by an ICE agent as she drove into him earlier this month.
And our hearts are with our community as we hope for healing and unity during this challenging time. Please join us in a moment of silence.
Or how about this weepy monologue on MS Now? Formerly MSNBC, all about Alex Pretti's character and nothing about how he, once again, was impeding federal law enforcement.
Alex Pretti's last words were words he said thousands upon thousands of times in his life as a nurse, in his work as a nurse. Alex Pretti's last words were, "Are you okay?" That's what he asked the woman with the orange backpack, who he was trying to help. He was trying to protect. Are you okay? That's what he was worried about, not himself. Are you okay?
Also, let's not gloss over the fact that MS Now allegedly photoshopped the headshot of Pretti to look nicer, softer, more conventionally attractive, potentially to drum up more sympathy. And of course, Jimmy Kimmel was not going to let this opportunity go by without actually weeping. Again.
And to the people of Minneapolis, to the Pretti family and the Good family, and these people who were looking out for their neighbors, we want you to know that we are with you and you are not alone.
But where were these weepy messages when Laken Riley was murdered by a criminal illegal alien after struggling for her life for 17 minutes? Or when Jocelyn Nungre was murdered by 2 illegal Venezuelans? Or how about every single time a criminal illegal alien sex traffics a young child in this country? Or every single time one of them wrecks a family when someone is killed by the drugs that they've trafficked into the United States? White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was on target when addressing the media about the fatal shooting at Monday's press briefing.
Former President Joe Biden and the Democrats opened America's borders for 4 years, inviting tens of millions of illegal aliens from all over the world to flood into our country. Among them, violent criminals who terrorized American communities and have inflicted devastating, permanent pain and harm on law-abiding Americans and their families. Yet we never saw outrage from Democrats or their allies in the liberal media over these horrifying crimes against U.S. citizens.
So, like Leavitt said, let's not forget the facts of the matter. What's happening in Minnesota is because of crooked Democrat leaders like former President Joe Biden and Minnesota's very own Governor Tim Walz, who actively turned the blind eye when illegal aliens poured into our country and the city of Minnesota, and, once they were there, stood out of the way as they defrauded tax-paying Americans. Once this was uncovered at the national scale, the Trump administration had no choice but to enforce law and order, and the left doesn't really like when he does that. Mangling the constant messaging from the online left that the Trump admin and its officials are Nazi Gestapo, it was only a matter of time until the impassioned protester stood in harm's way. I mean, what did you think immigration enforcement meant? Vibes? Papers? Video essays? And let's get one thing straight. The First Amendment protects speech and peaceful assembly. It most certainly does not protect you when you aggressively approach a federal officer for the second time within the span of a week, mind you. And whether or not the use of lethal force was called for by the officer is not up to me to decide, but why put yourself in harm's way in the first place? Bottom line is it's always a tragedy when someone dies, and the situation is still unfolding, but the toxic empathy is only flowing one way. At best, it's just hypocritical, but at worst, it's destructive and only worsening the situation in Minnesota by the minute.